How's it going, friends and family? Welcome back to the Real AF TV podcast show about fishing and random takes from Atlanta 10,000 lakes. We are in the random take where we're going to focus on one movie, typically something we don't really do. Zelda may be the exception. I think we did two full episodes of Tears of the Kingdom, which we're going to have to come back to again soon, but
for sure.
Yeah, we're going to talk about The Machine now. Following our last random take, funny enough, just happened though. It just happened this way because it dropped on Netflix. We knew it was coming because Burt Kreischer. So anybody who doesn't know Tim, you just want to give them the rundown of the movie, and then we're gonna do our thing.
So yeah, Burt Kreischer has been telling this machine story. I'm kind of a fan of everybody that's kind of involved in that same world. There's a lot of guys that are real close to each other. Joe Rogan, Burt Kreischer, Tom Segura, all those guys are kind of in the same world. And Burt was on Joe's podcast once upon a time and told that machine story. And Joe was like, you need to make that a stand-up bit. And he told that as a stand-up bit. And it starts off with him telling that stand-up bit. And like, it's in the movie where he's just being like, when I was 22 years old, I got involved with the Russian mafia. This is how it happened. So it's a stand-up bit.
Yep.
And then he basically just like pitched it and turned it into a movie.
Yeah.
And that's basically what it becomes. It's the story of, in the short of it is when he was involved with the Russian mafia.
Oh, and we're gonna go full spoilers on this too. So if you haven't seen it yet on Netflix, well, then just shut off this part of the podcast because we're going in.
And currently, right now, this one's not much of a spoiler. You learn it relatively quick. Eventually, I guess it's still kind of a spoiler. But what you learn is that he took a watch when he was involved with the Russian mafia, because basically the Russian mafia, he drank with them, they loved him, and then they fucking robbed the train is what they normally do, and then he was like involved with it, didn't really want to, but what the fuck are you gonna do? The Russian mafia is making you rob this train with him now. And he took a watch, and it ended up being very important to
it's like Keanu. I'm looking for a real gangsta cat. Like the watch is like the center point of the story.
Yeah, exactly. And that's basically the short of it.
Premise of the movie.
The premise of the movie
and to go quick on a thing, or like a little more on that, is it's Burt's true story about him and getting involved with the Russian mafia or whatever when he's a kid, and the stand-up bit that it turns into. And then it's like a fictional exaggeration of Burt's life, kind of.
Right.
And then a story that unfolds after that, which is a fictional story that he wrote. Like, the movie's a fictional story.
Right. Yeah.
Because of the adventure that him and his dad go on.
Exactly.
But it's based on like, this is where if a horror movie was doing this, it would have based on true events underneath the title.
Right.
Because horror movies love that shit. But that's for the Halloween episode. Don't get into that.
Yeah. Right. But yeah. So from what he says in his stand-up bit, that it is true that he like drank with the Russian mafia, and then they did end up robbing the train. But the exaggerated part is that now here we're getting into a lot of spoilers.
Yeah, now here we go. Jump in.
This is for sure spoilers. That he ended up stealing this watch. The watch ends up being belonging to the father of what essentially becomes the mob boss now.
Right.
And his daughter is trying to get it back because she's trying to take over the family. and she ends up having a couple of different siblings, and the whole movie is basically Burt gets brought on this ride by this woman trying to find the watch, and it turns out they're all looking for the watch. So Burt is kind of a hot ticket item, and she happens to be the first person. Do you remember her name?
No, because it was the most fucking Russian thing I've ever heard. It was
I
so
remember
funny.
the
It was like Ivanta Vankadunk Vichkevin.
Oh yes, yes, it is something like that. You're right. That sounded actually pretty close when you said it. Yeah. And I know one of her brother's name was Alexei.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. But then the other brother that's like all jacked. My wife likes that. Do you know Matt Rife?
That doesn't sound familiar. No.
Stand-up comedian, fucking handsome ass kid, and all the bitches love him because he's just handsome. And then he's also funny.
Yeah.
So you got like he
Hot,
blew
funny
up
dude.
crazy. He blew up fast on the internet and went from like not being a well known to like now he's selling out like theaters everywhere he goes.
He Dane Cooked it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly what happened. Yeah, so he's Dane cooking it.
Nice.
And
good for him.
I seen that big dude, and I just was I told Shannon, I was just like, that guy is like if your boy Matt Rife and Vanilla Ice had a baby, because he had like that platinum blonde hair, and it's like wafted up perfect.
But yeah, it was like kind of Vanilla Icy,
jacked and handsome, and you're just like, all right, yeah. But yeah, dude, it ended up being a pretty good movie. At the beginning, it kind of started out slow because I think part of the problem is that it feels like very smug because it is a very self-centered. Well, I think is what it kind of feels like. I didn't necessarily think that it was, but also that's I like Burt, but that's one of my least favorite traits of his is how he absolutely will not shut the fuck up about himself.
Yeah.
Which sometimes I think about myself and I'm like, fuck, do I not like it because I do that shit sometimes? And I'm just like, I don't.
Is a certain extent though, right? There's extremes on this of like, not extremes, but there are certain times and places where you have to be selfish or where you have to present yourself to a new crowd, or like you have to be a little bit more you than you're used to being in order for people to understand who you are. And it's like Burt and Tom hang out all the time on Two Bears. They're like best friends, and Burt still like dominates the conversation about himself too often.
There are jokes all the time about how Tom like never gets to talk, and when Burt is gone and Tom has like a guest bear on, Tom oftentimes starts the podcast and he's just like, oh, this is so nice, I get to talk today. And just like shits all over him, and they shit all over each other all the time and stuff.
Yeah, because they're good buddies. That's like it's the way they grew up. It's how they are.
Yeah. So that does come across a little bit, but it's like that's just who Burt is. He is a very self-centered person. I mean, that's kind of the same thing that like with a lot of comics are though. It's I got stuff to tell. I'm funny. Listen to me.
Right.
We're kind of the same way.
Right.
We have a podcast.
Yep.
We're talking to you.
Yep.
Listen to what I have to say. It's kind of the same shit a little bit,
sure.
But it just come, like telling the story and everything. I think the reason I'm bringing this up too is because I chatted with you about it. This is one of the most lopsided Rotten Tomatoes I've ever seen.
Oh,
it has,
dude, when you showed me that, I was like, what?
Yeah. It's 33% of the critics liked it.
Yeah.
So it's got like that green, like smushed tomato side.
Yeah.
87% of users liked it.
Yeah.
So the majority of real people that watched it, a lot of his fans, dude? I'm sure, are the people that are saying that they loved it too.
Right.
But like that close to 90, 87% is a very good number on Rotten Tomatoes. I think
Yeah.
anything over, what is it? Anything over 75 is
I was just going to say, I think
considered
a
fresh.
70 something is good. Yeah.
It might even be over 60. I don't remember for sure.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure either, but
and then
it's very
if the
high
critics,
score
if
on Rotten.
the critics like it and the users like it, then it gets that like certified fresh stamp.
Right.
But 87% of the viewers liked it, 33% of the critics like it. And when you like look at their reviews, they're like, oh, it's a this and that and all this other shit, and you're like, listen, I don't think it was the greatest movie in the world.
No.
But it was put together well.
Yeah.
It takes a little bit of time going in the first half because you got to put together a storyline. You can't just jump into anything.
Right.
I do think that some of the jokes in the beginning were a little bit cornier than they did get at the end.
For
Like
sure.
so there was a couple of times where you're
but
just
they
like,
were, I still thought they were funny because they were setting up like Dad Burt.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense too. Yeah, when you put it like that definitely was him as a dad. But there were a couple of jokes that like got me good. Like I laughed pretty good at a couple of them.
Yeah.
So it was, there were moments like
in the beginning or the whole movie now?
At the beginning. There was one at the beginning.
Yeah, you tell me.
Where it was at that party.
Uh-huh.
And what was that lady? I can't remember what even was said. But he was talking about how that mom that he doesn't like.
Yep. And I even got moms that don't like me to come.
Yeah, and then he goes, "Hi, whatever," and says it like right after he
Hi,
says
Mackenzie's
it.
mom or whatever.
Yeah, Mackenzie's mom. And he's walking past, and she said something about just like, "Oh, where's this or whatever." She said, "Where's the whatever?" Mm-hmm. And he just goes, "Where's your husband?" Because she's like recently divorced.
Oh shit! I missed that one.
Yeah, throws it back in her face like immediately. I'm like, oh damn. Yeah, but he's funny like that too. Like in his stand up, he's got a joke about kind of talking about that stuff where he's talking about the booze. He's like, the booze makes me brave. He's like, he was talking about one of his wife's friends that'll count the beers that he's drinking.
Oh, okay.
And he'll go crack another one. She'll just be like, "That's 7." And they're just like, huh. And then you just be like, his brain is like, "Go call her a fat pig." He's like, "No, we can't do that." And then he's like this alternate personality. It's just be like, "Keep drinking. I'll fucking do it."
Oh, that's so good. One of my favorite jokes in the whole movie is near the end. And it's just so funny to me. And I'll just say it. And then, obviously it'll come out why it's so funny. He just goes, shit, hold on. I got to think of the exact words because what you just said is now infiltrating my
shit.
Yeah, is infiltrating my brain because that's it's another fat joke. And he goes, "Oh, I know what he says." He goes, "Yeah, well, one day me and my big fat friend Tom, we were getting really hammered."
Yeah.
He just throws that in there. And he does that. Like whether he improv'd it because he knew Tom was going to read or not. But it's so funny just knowing him and Tom's relationship that he had to throw that in there. He just,
my big fat friend Tom.
he had to throw it in there. Yeah. He just had to do it. It's so fucking hilarious.
Yeah. That was 100% for like the fans of both of them, just to be like,
totally,
right? Shit, he shit on Tom in his fucking movie.
Right.
And Tom does it back constantly.
Tom does it
back constantly. Yeah.
When like during podcasts?
During the podcast, if Bert's gone, he always intros the thing. He just be like, "Yeah, Bert's, getting that surgery because he had to have his foot removed. Sadly, the diabetes got to it. But and it's just like bullshit. None of it's real, but he's
Right.
like constantly making fun of each other for how fat they are. And now Tom is skinny, so it's funny. My big fat friend Tom, and that was recorded when Tom was bigger, and now he's not. So it's like, oh, you missed on that one, Bert.
It's still funny.
It is funny. I know. I think it's funny too because it's still back and forth. But yeah, dude, there's a couple of different. Huge spoiler alert right here because there's two of my favorite jokes in the movie.
Okay.
Was that one where he's like going to fight and he's like, "Oh, from Florida State, all we do is fight, drink, and fuck, and I can't fuck for shit."
Yep. Yeah, I love that.
But the funny thing is he's such an egomaniac when he's on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
He will talk about himself, talking about how he just fucking laid it down with his wife. He's like, "Oh, dude, I was fucking in the zone. I was just fucking giving it to her." And you're just like, and then be like, "Really?"
Actually talks about that.
Oh, it's so weird how he does. He talks himself up so crazy sometimes. And they all talk about it too. He's got this crazy confidence that's just insane. It's nuts. He's an odd duck. He's constantly pitching ideas. He's constantly talking about how good he is. He came up with the idea of the Mickey Mantle gene. And I don't really know the whole backstory on that, but he talks like he's got this gene that just makes him like above everybody else. Like he doesn't have to try. And some of the stuff is absolutely insane that he can do. He is he's like an athlete that doesn't really try a lot, but he has the ability to do stuff.
Really?
Like he played, I think he played collegiate baseball and then dropped, like wanted to party more. So stopped doing that. But like
there's a quick reference joke in, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, where he says it real fast.
Yeah, because it's like cut scene, and he comes walking in, and he's like, "Yeah, if I didn't sprain my thumb on that dog's face, I would have probably made it into the bigs."
As the younger him,
yeah,
but the true story is like he just didn't want to keep going. Basically, right.
Which is just another point to the like exaggeration, even though Burt probably really told that story like that. To pump himself up. It's just, it's a point to the movie is the movie's fiction. Yeah. Like
for sure.
But it's funny. And it doesn't matter.
Fiction, but there's points that are real.
But it's like, based on true events again. Like
for sure. Based on based on a true event, and then they exaggerated a story off of that. So all the other stuff is kind of fake.
Yep.
But he was able to he can still like smash home runs, I guess. He went out and he was like trying to tell people, like showing how to adjust their swing or whatever, but he can smash home runs.
Whoa.
He ran a marathon without training.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I think he did it in like 5 hours or something, which is like a lot of running and then a lot of walking, but it's still like unheard of.
That's crazy.
And he's overweight too. He just like did it.
Right.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. Like he has the ability to do shit that you shouldn't be able to do. But at the same, so he has this crazy weird shit that he can back up with his confidence and stuff. And then like even in the fight scenes and stuff, like it looked legit. He didn't look like somebody that can't do stuff. He did what he was supposed to do.
And I'm pretty sure he was, I mean, there are parts obviously that there's stunt people for, but I mean he did the
there are parts there are, speaking of fat people, there's that scene where he's like falling down the hill in the woods where he's just rolling. And I'm like, oh, I bet that stuntman loved being the stuntman for a fat guy. He had all that cushion as he's flopping down that fucking hill. I could just see it real quick in the cut, and I was just like, oh, that was definitely a smaller man in a fat suit. Just like perfect. I can't believe that the lead in this action movie is a fucking fat guy. I just
Yeah,
get to
yeah.
wear
He's
this
like,
puffy
awesome.
suit.
That guy weighs fucking 120 pounds more than me. This is perfect. I get to put on a fat suit.
Right. These other skinny guys are just killing me. I gotta just put on a fucking suit coat and go and do it.
Right. Go fall down some stairs.
Yeah.
Just get you to fucking wear a fat suit and roll down the woods.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, they definitely took some liberties with it.
Yeah.
Those aren't his kids' names, which
Right,
I
of
thought
course.
was weird. He uses Tom's real name, and he doesn't use
I
the
know.
kid's real name, which I understand, I guess. But at the same time, like anybody that's a fan of his and listens to the podcast or
Knows.
listens to his
Yeah.
like stuff,
Right.
I know his kids' names. I know his wife's name.
Right.
And
I seen his kids
none.
because he brought him on the podcast. Hey, Tony Hawk's gonna be on. You're like,
Oh
there they
yeah,
are.
yeah. It's pretty crazy shit. She's been. I don't really listen to Burt's podcast too much unless he's got on a guest that I want to hear him talk with.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big fan of just listening to Burt talk by himself.
Yeah.
I like the dynamic that it brings when he's with other people.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But just by himself, I'm not really interested.
I tried to listen to him on Poopies, like just to put my fandom. Like Bert's awesome. He's funny. I remember watching stand up and getting to the machine part and all that stuff. But I tried to watch him with Poopies.
Yeah.
I just turned it off.
Oh yeah.
He dominated it. I mean, Poopies isn't that good of an interviewer anyway.
Yeah.
He's kind of like a shy guy. He seems to be like socially shy a little bit until he gets the ability to be weird about it.
Oh, sure.
And so when you're just sitting down and talking to him, he feels awkward anyway.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Oh, and then you just have Burt, right? Like you have Burt's strong personality up against that. And there was just like, it was like Burt was hanging out in the room and they were drinking too. And he brought a bartender.
Yeah. And he's just like, it's like,
it was game
oh, today I have, it's almost like today it shouldn't be like today we have Poopies on the podcast. It's like today Poopies is going to listen to me tell stories. It's just like, yeah, okay, just let your fucking guests talk sometimes. It's
Oh no, this was Poopies Poopies podcast.
Oh, it was Poopies podcast.
Yeah, he had Burt on as a guest.
Dude, I'll check that out. I didn't know Poopies had a podcast.
Yeah, I don't know. You'll have more time to listen to it than me. I didn't jump back to it. You let me know.
I like Poopies, but he's an odd duck. Yeah, it does seem to be like the podcast I've listened to. He kind of needed somebody steering the ship. So I don't know. Yeah, well, I'll check it out, see what it's like.
Yeah,
but
report back.
Yeah,
so anyways,
dude, there was a couple of smart things that they did in this movie that I really enjoyed from a directorial standpoint. Which is not the same that I can say for Spiral, which is a callback to last week and a little preview for next week, because I'll touch on that next week.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Chris Rock horror movie.
It's called Spiral.
Yes, it's called Spiral.
Okay.
I watched it. It has some real flaws. Yeah, so we'll talk about that next week.
Okay.
And I brought it up last week when we were talking about stand-up. Was that last week? I think.
Yeah. So last episode, you say last week, but I know what you mean.
Last episode.
But last episode we were talking about stand-up. We brought up Chris Rock, and we talked about, and you said you thought it was Jigsaw, and I said, yeah, that's definitely a Saw movie.
Yes.
And then now know it's Spiral. Okay.
Yes, Spiral, and it's based off of it, so it's a little bit of a like spin-off. Okay. But anyways, the directorial stuff, dude. Did you notice? I really, really enjoyed how they did it. Where that lead blonde lady, she's that badass, hair's down. She's just like, do not fuck with me, you know, kind of shit.
Yep.
Then she gets to a point where she gets injured. It makes her vulnerable. After they heal her up, they put her in this like unassuming brown thing. They fucking put her hair up like Princess Leia. They make her likable with how they're telling the story and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And then you're just like, oh damn, dude, nice job just being like, we need people to like her.
Yeah.
Completely change her image for a couple of scenes and soften everything about her.
Right.
She
Yeah. Yeah.
starts
Yeah.
talking about Urkel and talking about her family,
Yep.
and they're kind of, palling around.
Yeah.
I shot that one. It was 2 bullets, 3. Oh, it was like 1 bullet I shot, but 3 bullets killed 3 guys. And then all of a sudden she's like, dub 5 kills all my life. High five. Like comes and just like, hell yeah. So now all of a sudden
Yep.
she's likable and
So
stuff.
good.
And then it was shortly after that, you're like, she needs to be a badass again. Right back to hair down, same outfit,
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
fucking
That
fucking
like.
tank, I can't be stopped type
Yep.
mentality.
Yep.
And it was just like, that was
Good
smart.
point, dude.
Very,
That's really good
yeah.
noticing that, because I did, but I didn't. You know what I mean?
Right. It's something that you just kind of like look over it. But as I'm watching it, like I'm very critical about shit, So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of times where I can be taken out of a movie completely over the littlest shit.
Sure.
And this was, a comedy that wasn't true. I knew it was going to be different. I wasn't too nervous about anything.
Yeah.
If there was something that was like blatantly like that doesn't make any fucking sense, I'd just be like, did you notice that part? That was dumb as shit, huh? But it's
Right.
not, it wasn't really like that in all of this. And
No, and not a
dude,
lot of the too much over the top trying to get you to laugh
oops.
shit either.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I thought they were just good jokes. Like there was the one part that was way over the top, and I was laughing at it because it was so over the top, but also just really funny
Yeah.
when that dude gets his neck slit right behind him.
Yeah.
And then he turns around and he's like, oh shit, what do I do? What do I do? Because it wasn't deep enough. The guy doesn't just
Oh.
bleed out and fall over.
Yeah,
What do I do? What do I do? I don't know.
And he starts
He's
coming back
hit
at
him.
him. Yeah.
He fucking punches into the opening in his neck, and now his hand is in the fucking neck of this dude.
He punches his throat, yeah. And then the Russian girl is just like, oh shit, it's like you're fisting his throat.
And then his dad goes, maybe it's like a jar of pickles. Just let go of the pickles. Open your hand.
Yeah, just open your hands.
Dad, it's not a fucking jar of pickles.
Right. Yeah.
Did you see who his dad was? Did you notice?
So not only did I notice, I knew it right away. So I knew it because of the podcast and stuff. I knew it before I even seen the
you've
movie.
Been behind the scenes.
But the funny thing is, so the funny thing is we're sitting there and we start up the movie and Shannon's like, are those his real kids and wife? And I just go, no. Like his wife's name is Leanne, and I'm just like, Leanne doesn't, that's in my opinion, his wife in this movie is quite a bit hotter than his wife in real life. And I was just like, isn't that kind of crazy though? He's just like a comedian, like doesn't seem to be like really an actor, and now he's just like making out with another girl on camera. Like, just seems weird, just like to be that you're not like an actor by trade, and now you've made this movie, and now you're kissing a person that's not your wife. And she actually was like cool with it. They've talked about that on the podcast too. But while we're sitting there, she's like, are those all the real? And I go, no. And she goes, then that's not his real dad. And I go, and I just kind of give her a look, and she's like, what? How am I supposed to know? And I go, well, because that's Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, it's because no, Luke Skywalker is not Burt's dad. That's why.
Right, yeah. So yeah, when that came out, I was just like, and she goes, oh, I didn't notice that. And she's like, yeah, no, it's no big deal. It's like whatever. But yeah, but great. Yeah, the scene, like a lot of that shit on the train, when it started ramping up was when they really started hitting them with all the jokes and stuff,
Mm-hmm. Oh, before we get into the train stuff, though, I got to ask, because we're talking about the like Reels family and all this stuff. Is the story true? Like, is the kickoff story? Because like, there's the daughter thing. Is that for reals? That him and Tom were getting fucked up, and he live streamed, and no, that part is all okay. Because I was like, how in the fuck would I not know that about Burt? Like,
yeah,
I'm a decent enough fan of stand-up comedy in general, and Burt, and like, how would this
So
crazy thing go
my
unknown.
theory is there's a possibility of um his daughter did get mad at him, so there is some truth, but he completely fabricated
Yeah.
some other kind of story to try to like pull at the heartstrings of people and really like up the stakes
Well, yeah,
and
it
make
had to
it
be.
seem
Yeah.
like
Again, this
make
isn't
it
a
way
fucking
more
documentary. This
right,
is an exaggeration. So
right.
that's all I wanted to know. I just wanted to like, or that's all I was trying to point out. I don't think it's like
Yeah.
makes the movie shitty or makes Burt stupid for doing it at all. I think that
No.
it's just,
Yeah.
I just want to
So
know if it
I
was real because,
right. Yeah, I think he up the stakes to be like I'm just saying from like a directorial like script
yeah, from a writer.
view of just being like we want her to get mad but we want it to be believable and we want people to be able to like be on her side a little bit, not to
Right.
just be like,
Yeah.
oh, he said some stuff that hurt her feelings, like
Right.
he got her into some serious trouble, just
Hmm.
being like, oh, okay, that makes 100% sense why she's pissed.
Right.
But in reality, I think he's got a bit where he talks about her getting her period, and she did actually get mad about that. So I think I think there was a little
Yeah.
phase of she was pissed off at him, like, don't fucking talk to me.
Right. Right.
All my friends, you know, is talking about you talking about me getting my fucking period.
Right. Right.
So,
Yep.
so I think there was that moment. But yeah, dude, when it got to the train and when it got to like the real action and everybody's, getting shot up and all this other shit,
Hmm.
it gets entertaining for sure. I really liked the action scenes because they were, even though they were kind of like unbelievable,
Yep.
they did a good job and they were still believable. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
like,
They were totally action movie scenes, and that's what
right.
was
Yeah.
good about it.
Yeah. Cause the action scenes, a lot of times you're still like bullshit. How are they going to hit everybody? Um, the only thing I didn't like was in the casino.
Hmm.
I've seen enough fucking videos on the internet. You shoot at somebody from 10 feet away with a fucking automatic weapon,
Yeah.
you're hitting them. And they're firing in the casino.
Yeah. It was totally
and
action movie shit.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, just you
Or
can't
they had
hit
to make it
any
extreme and like make sure that the mafia feels badass. Like,
right.
yeah, it was totally
Yeah,
action movie. It just that's all there was to it to me.
yeah,
Like that's just
yeah,
your stereotype action movie.
yeah,
The
for sure.
villains are firing automatic weapons,
Yeah,
and the protagonist has a 9mm, pops
right,
around the corner, pow, with one shot done.
right.
Okay, I'm
Yeah,
just gonna shoot him in the leg.
right. I'm just gonna shoot him in the leg. Ends up hitting him in the head.
Poof,
And
right through the forehead.
He falls down and like tenses up and shoots two, and it just randomly kills 3 fucking guys. Oh,
So good.
yeah. And I liked the little fucking jabs he was throwing at people as they were fighting too. So it was like a legitimate fight scene, but then there was like humor to it as well.
Yeah.
That one guy like swings at him and he like grabs the thing. He's like, "Oh, I got your stick," and then he
Yep.
keeps fighting and stuff. But dude, did you laugh? The hardest laugh I had of the whole thing is because when I get hit with a joke that I don't see coming is when I laugh the hardest.
Yeah.
And the hardest laugh I had of the whole movie was the like climax right
Okay.
at the end with the whole mob scene with
Okay.
so
I'm trying
I
to
know
think
we've been
which one
dropping
it is.
spoiler alerts a lot,
Oh
but
yeah.
definitely this is the biggest spoiler because basically this is the ending of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't want the ending ruined, shut his shit off now because I'm about to say. But right at the end where the dad is just like, you are not going to be
Oh
the
God, this
mob
was the
boss.
best joke. I laughed so
You are
fucking
not going to
hard,
be
dude.
the mob boss. I should precursor this to anybody wondering how this works. When I was talking about with her braids and stuff, she was talking about
You
how
said it.
Steve Urkel,
Yeah.
don't sleep on Steve Urkel. And then that kid, like right before they go to bed, he's like, got any cheese? She's like, oh, he watched it. Just like, hell yeah, that was cool. But like right at the end of the movie, so they're talking about she's like, or the dad's like, you're not gonna be the mob boss. You gotta take, however he says it,
Yeah, he's like, you got to be
is
a wolf.
basically
You
like
got to be
it's
a killer.
yeah,
If you
yeah,
don't,
you gotta it's
you're
kill or
gonna get.
be killed.
Yep.
Yeah.
So your brother
And
gets the empire.
yeah, and basically he was, telling her, because he even smirks a little bit when she just gets pissed off and she's like, no, fuck you. And then she shoots him, kills the dad, he drops, and then they all start like bowing around her.
Yeah.
It's like a slow thing where they all start like
Yeah, she's kind of
bending
holding
the
her arms
knee.
out with the gun. Like, is anybody else
Yeah.
is anybody gonna come
Yeah.
at me now that I just did that?
Right. Yep. And they all start bending the knee because they're just like, this is our new mob boss.
Yep.
Bow down to her. And like all of a sudden, like the camera pulls back on her. She whips around, looks at Burt, and she just goes, "Did I do that?"
It was so good. Oh shit! Well, I'm watching Family Matters when we get back.
Right. It just fucking this super serious moment.
Good. It was so good because you do not see it coming, and then
No,
wham!
not at all.
It was so good.
Yeah.
Oh,
Dude.
I loved it. Between that and the neck one, those are my two favorite, because I just didn't see the neck thing coming. I just didn't see the neck thing coming, and I never seen that before.
Yeah.
It was just funny to me. It was just that.
I wish that I wouldn't have seen the, like, when he threw up and put it in his pocket on the trailer, because that was pretty funny too, but it was ruined on the trailer.
Oh,
where
I didn't
he was
see
like,
it.
when she had the leg in the stick in her leg.
Oh yeah.
And he goes to pull the stick out of it, and he's like, oh, so, and he ends up like throwing up a little bit into his hand. And she's like, oh, don't throw up or whatever. And he has the barf, and he takes the barf that's in his hand and he like puts it in his pocket. And she's like, did you just put that in your pocket? And he's just like, I don't know what to do with
it. I missed that part. I remember that part. I remember everything alongside that joke. So I got interrupted during that. Shit.
Yeah. He just puts the puke in his pocket. Yeah. And then it's just like a back and forth. She's just like, I think I'm going to throw up. Like after he puts the puke in his pocket.
Yeah.
And she's like, he's like, don't puke. If you puke, I puke. If you puke, I puke. Don't puke. It's just back and forth.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden
he passes out.
Well, he doesn't, I don't know. Does he pass out? That other guy comes in the door.
Oh, okay.
Igor comes in the door and immediately just goes, oop, and pukes as soon as he sees the stick sticking out of her leg. But it's like, come on. I know that was meant to be a joke and they're just kind of doing some like slapstick humor, but
right.
These people did some like terrible shit with the mafia.
Right. Yeah.
To act like they haven't seen a stick in a leg before.
Right. Yeah. 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 It was totally some slapstick humor that I totally glossed over it. You're right.
Yeah.
I just think it was, I do remember the cut though, that guy, he just walks in and
yeah.
The suddenness of all of like how it happens.
Yeah.
The actor did a good job. It was the actor and the editing that made that last part funny.
The whole thing, once they get into the like really meat and potatoes of Russia, like it really gets better after he gets abducted and they go and they start getting into the whole thing. Like there's just so many like subtle jokes that are just like weird. What the hell? That like made me kind of giggle.
Mm-hmm.
Like when he's leaving that village and they're about to leave and that car is just to the gills with fucking weapons. And the one woman hands him like a whole raw chicken.
Just
like
freshly feathered dead chicken.
And he's just like, thank you. And he like turns around and he like turns to Igor as he's putting it in. He's like, what the hell am I supposed to do with this chicken?
What the hell am I supposed to do with dead chicken? but also how that scene opens for me, the exact same scene you're talking about. It opens, it cuts to that scene and the van door opens.
Yeah.
And Burt saying bye to everybody. It
Yeah.
just so door opens up. Sorry about your bathroom, and he like it was just. I just thought it was funny, just because like that's where we caught him in the conversation, was him
Right.
apologizing for destroying someone's shitter. Like
Right.
I just thought it was funny. Just again, it was the editing,
Yeah.
and I love those transition
There's
jokes. They're so funny.
yeah. There's a lot of jokes like that. It's and then just because you just roll with like what other people say,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like there's just jokes that were like nicely done
Mm-hmm.
along like when, you know, so earlier in that movie, that woman gets shot and we're kind of led to believe that she's dead. Spoiler alert. Again, obviously this whole fucking part has been she's not, and they like find her and she's in like an old school wagon, like a rickety big wooden wagon in
Mm-hmm.
some straw, and they're just like, if we find this whore, and they come over and he's just like, oh shit, I know this whore. And that lady leans in and she's just like, do you want to buy the whore for the fucking?
Yeah.
And like half dead lady shot a couple of times in the stomach, has a stick through her leg, and this woman's offering to sell her.
Yep.
And you're just like, damn. And you're just like,
oh,
Igor,
God
like,
damn.
have me get her inside. I know this whore.
I know he keeps going with it. I do. I love a joke like that too.
Yeah.
So good. Oh my God. One thing before we cut, because we gotta cut off here. One thing before we go. The dude who plays young Burt.
Oh yeah.
He's fucking hilarious, dude. It's Jimmy Tatro. Thank you.
Yep.
I think he's funny.
Yeah.
I like his voice.
Yeah.
And he can. I don't know. I just like his voice. I think it's funny.
Yeah.
I think he's funny, and
he's all been in.
Where I thought he was really funny, like the first time I seen him, that was really funny, was another Netflix thing. Oh, not that this is Netflix. This is just Sony renting it to Netflix for The Machine. American Vandal was, and I'm pretty sure that's a Netflix original. It was like a series. It was a mockumentary.
I don't know.
And Jimmy, really? Yeah, Jimmy's in it, and it's a high school. It's about a high school class, and it's a mockumentary about a true crime thing.
Yeah.
He was so fucking funny, dude. He was very funny in it. And the premise around it is just like, who sprayed the dick on the wall?
Nice.
And everybody blames Jimmy's character because he's like the dumb jock kid troublemaker who would do it or whatever, you know? It's like, I didn't spray the dick on the wall.
Yeah.
He's really funny in it.
I'll have to check that one out because it shows that it's 8.1 out of 10 on IMDb, so it looks like it's a decent show.
Yeah.
I just checked his IMDb real quick because I was like, I know him from something else. He was in 22 Jump Street.
Yeah.
He was like one of the classmates or whatever. I don't or maybe he was on the football team.
Yeah, I can't remember where he was in 22 because we watched 21 so many times.
Yeah, I don't remember for sure, but I know that he was in it. I think maybe he was one of the people in. Oh, I think now I know. I'm pretty sure that he was one of the people in the frat when they had to do their whole initiation,
hazing and whatever.
Yeah, hazing deal.
Okay, probably.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was in that frat. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, I think he might have even ran it. I think he might have been the lead of the.
Yeah, again, we've watched 21 Jump Street so many times. I forget 22 Jump Street because just haven't watched that one as much.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm not fully sure. He's funny.
100%. Yeah, that's 100% what I knew him from because I was just like, I definitely know him. I just don't remember from what.
Oh, okay.
And now that I see it, I'm like, yep, that's what it's from. So I'll definitely have to check out that other show.
Yeah.
When I'm done with everything else I got going, I have like 4 different series that I'm still in the middle of. But I suppose that one is probably one that I could watch without Shannon. So
Yeah.
maybe I'll get on that one. 'cause the
Yeah,
other
she
ones
might
are
find
like,
it funny, but I mean, it's a mockumentary. It's funny. It's funny,
right.
but either way. Yeah, man. Okay, we've gone long on this one. This is another long podcast. We've gone decently long on this topic. I know that we'll definitely be talking more offline with it, but let's do the things that we got to do because it's a podcast and say like and subscribe and all that stuff. Okay, that's all, guys. Seriously though, go over to youtube.com/@realaftv and give us a subscribe. Thank you for boosting the videos again. Man, we had a couple episodes there that just went for some reason, and now we're back on that upward trend. It's really nice. We like to see that. It feels good, makes us stay motivated and keep going. Hopefully we stay on that trend as we get into special season. If you are new to Real AF TV, it is time to get into the holiday specials. Oh yeah. Those are coming up. So keep an eye out for that and astray from the typical fishing random takes flow. Tim, what else? I'm done.
I don't know what else.
All right. Well, that's a wrap. Call it a wrap. Oh man, I was gonna clap and like try to do the clapboard thing, but I got the boom arm now.
Oh, I did it.
And there it is. That's a wrap.
That boom arm comes from the back.
Yeah. And so that actually, remember